name is Ross Pepper. I'm the Liberal Democrat parliamentary candidate for Lincoln.
Welcome to the Lincolnite, Ross. Let's kick off with housing and development. It's obviously a very important issue in Lincoln. There are more than 3,000 people on the City Council waiting list and there's sort of a general shortage of housing in the city. How would you address that?
Oh, you're completely correct. It is one of the biggest issues that we face. The Liberal Democrats nationally want to build 300,000 homes. I think that's one of the biggest things we need is have more housing stock, whether that be affordable homes or also bigger family homes as well. But we also need to address the issue of council houses. As you mentioned, there's a long waiting list here in Lincoln. Liberal Democrats would like to be able to give the local authorities like Lincoln City the chance to be able to borrow, to be able to build new council houses. There's only been 5 built in Lincoln since the early 1990s, and that's a shameful record really. I would like to see more built in Lincoln to be able to provide that waiting list coming down. But also, you've got issues like Article 4 coming in Lincoln, and I think that is one of the biggest issues that we face. I personally don't want to demonise students, but also we have to address the residents' concerns as well. But I don't think Article 4 does that. We need to have a balance, and I think a landlord licensing scheme or an accreditation scheme would be a lot better, and it would also be better balanced and deal with all rental accommodation in Lincoln.
Sure. And could you explain to people who perhaps don't know what Article 4 is?
Article 4 is basically stopping houses of multiple occupancy increasing within the city. So it would basically limit the numbers that there is here. I don't think it's the right way to go. I think we do need to look at a better approach where we cover all rental properties.
Sure. Let's move on to business and the economy. Obviously, businesses, especially small businesses in Lincoln, really important, sort of nationally and locally. The economy, sort of as a whole, is sort of been growing the last few years. We want sort of a recovery for everybody. We want consistent growth. What measures would you implement to help businesses grow and prosper in the city? Sort of addressing the skills gap on the one hand and ensuring that workers are paid a decent wage on the other.
Well, I think one of the biggest things is in terms of having money in your pocket, and I think that's one of the biggest Liberal Democrat achievements in government so far, is taking several thousand people in the city out of tax altogether and also giving a tax cut of £825 to thousands more. We want to go further and give an extra £400 tax cut by raising the tax threshold to £12,500. That will give more people money in their pockets to go out and spend in businesses. But we also need to have a look at the skills gap, and I think we do need to have a wide range of skills and jobs in the city. We need to have a look at what a diverse economy within the city, and that would also stop the brain drain going from the university. When people leave, a lot of people head back home rather than stay within the city, and I think that's such a shame that we're missing out on such an important, valuable source that we have already in the city.
And how important is it that people in Lincoln are paid a living wage?
I think that's one of the key things. We need to start moving towards a living wage. I think the council's done a good job in terms of paying all their staff the living wage, but we need to encourage larger businesses to do that, and obviously it depends on the size of the businesses on the smaller scale to how it would benefit them.
Absolutely, and let's move on to schools and higher education. Obviously the Liberal Democrats famously, or perhaps infamously, pledged to abolish tuition fees in 2010. Actually, under the coalition, tuition fees actually trebled. So what would you do, and do you think it's right for most students today to start their working life with at least £27,000 worth of debt, and that's not taking into account accommodation and living costs as well?
I think it's a shame, but we didn't have a Liberal Democrat government and we couldn't implement that promise. As a Liberal Democrat, it absolutely hurt, and someone who campaigned for that, it hurt when that was reneged on, and I do apologise on behalf of my party to the residents of Lincoln for that. But we managed to try and get the best deal that we could in terms of making the system a lot fairer. We don't now have the system of fees where it's up front, it's now behind, so you don't pay until after you've graduated, and that's a lot fairer, and it's also helped a lot more disadvantaged students be able to go to university. It's up 70% on what it was 10 years ago, so that's a vast improvement. And also the system of paying fees back is a lot fairer because you don't start paying until you're earning a lot more, and also the repayments are a lot lower. So when you are looking at starting a family, getting married, but buying a house, your repayments are a lot lower to help you be able to do the things you want to do.
Sure, and how is it the best deal for students? Can you clarify this? How is it the best deal for students to be paying 3 times as much as they were 5 years ago?
Well, under the proposals, both Labour and the Conservatives would have gone forward with the recommendations in the report that was released just after the election, which actually recommended unlimited fees. So it could have been a lot worse. Yes, it's not brilliant, but it could have been far worse for students under a Tory-owned government.
Absolutely. And let's move on to the NHS, another key sort of area of policy for the general election, especially in Lincolnshire actually, because there's obviously been a shortage of staff and money, which has plunged United Lincolnshire Hospitals Trust into sort of black alert over the winter. And despite budget cuts, the trust paid out sort of more than £30 million in negligence compensation. How would you address these problems?
Well, I think, first of all, we need to salute anyone who works within the NHS. They do a tremendous job under very difficult circumstances. I take my hat off to them, because I certainly couldn't work under the pressure that they have. But in terms of funding, the Lib Democrats have pledged to meet the recommendations made by NHS England to increase spending over this Parliament by £8 billion a year, and that would meet the shortfall that they would face by the end of the Parliament. Labour haven't met that pledge, only the Tories, apart from us, have done that, and ours is fully costed. But we also need to look at integrating the social health care service and the NHS as well. We also need to think about mental health, because that has been lagging behind so long, and we need to bring that up, make sure that that is treated equally under the NHS, because mental health affects 1 in 4 people, and that is such a statistic that we need to tackle. And it's something that I care passionately about, and the residents of Lincoln, I'm sure, do as well.
And where will the £8 million come from?
It's fully costed within the manifesto, whether it be from the mansion tax, whether it be from reeling in tax avoidance from non-doms and things like that. So it is fully costed in our manifesto, but they're the 2 biggest things that the money would come from.
And sort of finally, another massive issue in Lincoln, transportation and the Eastern Bypass. I think there's a wide consensus that there should be an Eastern Bypass which is to be built. Should it be dualled though, and should it cut off Hawthorne Road?
Well, firstly, yes, the Eastern Bypass needs to be built, and it needs to be built urgently. If you take the Western Bypass, I think you would need to say that it does need to be dualled. Many parts of that has been dualled, especially around the Teal Park area recently. And if you do get the same amount of development around the Eastern Bypass, you might as well get it over and done with, so save on the disruption and costs later on down the line. On the Hawthorne Road issue, it is a tough one. I can understand residents' concerns on that, but obviously any more delays on the Eastern Bypass project does threaten the project altogether. And I think we do need to push ahead and get it moved on. And we also need to look at the Southern Bypass to make sure that we don't move the traffic infrastructure problems to the south of the city around the North Highcombe area, where that could lead to more problems if we don't have the Southern Bypass as well. Coupled with that, we do need the park and ride scheme up and running as soon as possible, and more investment in our public transport services and rail links, better rail links, not only to London but to other cities such as Birmingham, Leeds, Manchester and things like that.
You mentioned sort of a few associated issues to do with transport in Lincoln. How big a problem is traffic congestion in the city?
I think it's a huge problem. If you look, well, obviously at the moment you've got the roadworks, but if you've got one part of Lincoln that's got an issue, the whole city gets affected. By having the bypass, you're taking around about 26% of the traffic that you're looking at away from the city centre. It will improve the flow of the traffic in the city centre and around it. That would also improve the air pollution in the city. Liberal Democrats believe in a free, fair and open society. We want to create a stronger economy within a fairer society, making sure that everyone has the opportunity to get on in life. Being a local boy, I want to make sure that Lincoln has a strong voice within Parliament and make sure that the residents get the best deal that they can from the Parliament for the residents of Lincoln. Vote Liberal Democrat, vote for a better Lincoln.